Hello everybody, my name is Kara, and today I'm here with a little something different. I'm going to be chatting about a TV show that I recently marathoned and absolutely loved. I'm going to put timestamps down below because there are going to be kind of three general parts to this video. The first one is sort of how I got into watching the show and kind of animated shows in general. By the way, the show I'm going to be talking about, I should have mentioned this, is Voltron Legendary Defender on Netflix. The second part is going to be kind of a review of the show, like spoiler free, and kind of breaking it down into the things that I really enjoyed about the show and why I would recommend it to people. And then the third part is going to be just kind of me gushing about my feelings. So that part will definitely have spoilers for the show, so I encourage you not to watch that if you aren't fully caught up with Voltron. Seasons 1 through 7 are the ones that are currently available. Okay, so the first part. Kind of my history with animated television and why it took me so long, I guess, to discover that I love it. So I really didn't watch a lot of animated shows growing up. Like, there were a couple of cartoons I watched, but maybe I can only think of like 2 or 3 animated shows that I like truly enjoyed and that me and my brother and sister watched consistently. Like, I never really had like a Nickelodeon phase either. Like, I never watched Avatar: The Last Airbender when everyone else did. I actually only saw Avatar for the first time a few months ago. So I just really hadn't had a lot of experience with animated television, but I was kind of a snob about it, and I can admit this now. At the time, I didn't think I was being judgmental about like anime or like animated shows or cartoons or whatever. At the time I thought I was being very reasonable and just like knew what I liked and I didn't like animated television. And now I can admit that I was in fact being a colossal snob about it because somehow I had gotten it into my head that animated shows were not as good, that their stories and characters weren't as interesting, that they didn't have as much like growth or development in the characters, that they just weren't going to be like as enjoyable for me. And I have a harder time connecting with TV shows than with other mediums in general. So I had just kind of decided like, oh well, cartoons are going to be even worse as far as that goes with me. So I'm just like not going to bother. I just don't like animated TV. And then I finally ended up watching Avatar: The Last Airbender because I was like, everybody loves this and I have to find out what all the fuss is about. And that one, it's not like I went in not expecting anything. I was pretty sure that I was going to enjoy it because I had heard things about the characters and what the show was about and just how important it was to so many people. I knew I was going to like it. I was very sure. But I freaking loved it. Surprising no one. That show is definitely lives up to all of the hype and all of the wonderful things I have heard about it. So that was kind of the first one that really, like the first animated show I saw as an adult that made me realize like there is some amazingly good quality like stories and shows out there that just happen to be animated. I know this is very obvious to a lot of people, but keep in mind that I had been fighting this for a while. And then after I had watched and loved that, my brother finally talked me into watching Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, which is actually an anime. Like, it is a straight up, this is what people show to other people to get them into watching anime. And my brother finally talked me into it, and my sister had actually seen it and enjoyed it too, which was another reason I thought I maybe would like it, because she had a lot of the same hang-ups I think that I did about animes, and like specifically what I had heard about female characters in some versions, like in some shows, but I freaking loved it. Like, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood was so amazing. It was so good. And I actually am planning to do a rewatch of that at some point soon because I have just so many feelings about it. And it was just such an incredibly nuanced story, and the music and the characters and the art and just the voice acting, like so much about that show, like with Avatar: The Last Airbender, was just mind-blowingly good. Because I guess I'm sort of thinking of Avatar as like a one-off situation. So I think it was Fullmetal Alchemist that really kind of convinced me that this was not just like a one-off, that this was that I maybe actually could consistently enjoy some animated TV shows. And then very recently I ended up marathoning all of Dragon Prince in like one day, and I thought that was good, and I was pretty much like fully on board for animated shows at this point. But I think I still had kind of a few hang-ups about like the kinds of animated shows that I would like. And then I was actually homesick a couple weeks ago and I really wanted something to watch, and I actually wanted to watch something new. I didn't just want to rewatch something I really love, which is unusual for me. And I remembered my very good friend Amy from Blonde and Bookish. I had heard her talking about Voltron Legendary Defender, and she really loves that show. She said some things about it that really intrigued me, and I had also, like, another thing that I thought was so cool was recently I had heard from somebody that they have like robot lions, like the robot beasts or like whatever in that show are lions, and I'm like, well, cats are great and you don't really see a lot of them in shows, so I'll try it. I'll like watch the first couple episodes and see how I feel. And no surprise, I freaking loved that one too. It was so good. I again basically marathoned that one. It took me a little longer because there were 7 seasons out, so over the next like few weeks I just just watched episode after episode of Voltron, and I really, really enjoyed it. I guess that's kind of like my history with animated TV, and I'm like fully on board now. Like I'm really, really excited to continue finding animated shows that I really love and that I really connect to, and yeah, I'm just like, I'm so happy that I kind of got out of that phase of thinking basically that I was too good for animated TV, and it's especially frustrating because I realize now that I was doing what makes me so angry about people, like with middle grade books, or, you know, especially, like I was basically doing what I get so mad at other people for doing, which is like generalizing from my preconceptions about a kind of medium, like just things about the entire like realm of what's out there that are not even true. So I have grown as a person since then. Okay, so then moving into my kind of spoiler-free review for this TV show. And starting with the summary, I'm already running into problems with how to describe this series because it is sci-fi, but I'm somebody who's extremely picky about science fiction, and I still really enjoyed this, so I wouldn't necessarily take the genre into consideration. It does involve space travel, but there are a lot of like sci-fi elements to it, but the characters are really what drew me to it. Basically, we follow a group of characters who are paladins, which means they ride these mechanical lions, or they fly in them, and they can assemble to form Voltron, who is kind of the defender of the universe, and they are fighting against the Galra, which is this race of aliens who have basically conquered most of the known universe, I think, at this point, or at least multiple galaxies, and they are dictators, they are tyrants. The Galra are the main villains, and we follow our paladins as they kind of fight them. They also take on missions to protect planets and to kind of help them rebel against their Galra oppressors, and there's a lot of other things that go on too, but that's kind of the general overview. So one thing I really liked was how creative this plot was, and actually it is kind of a reimagining or a reboot of the original, I guess, Voltron TV show. I think it's been rebooted twice since the original, and I don't know anything about the first like incarnation of it, so I'm not like a long time fan or anything, so I don't know, except for a few cases, I don't really know which things they changed. I had like no prior knowledge of this, which was actually really exciting, was that I hadn't been spoiled for this, and it had been so long since I watched something without knowing a lot of what was going to happen. And actually, even with books, that has happened a lot to me recently, was like I've been spoiled for things for very popular series. So this was like really exciting for me to actually not know what was going to happen before it did. Another thing I loved, and I mentioned earlier, was the character development and the characters themselves. I love all of them. I do have a couple of favorites. Like I think Keith and Pidge might be some of my favorite, but like I love Allura too, and like basically everybody. Everybody is my favorite character. Even the ones who I wasn't as sure about starting out, like Shiro is a character who I felt like didn't get quite enough development at the beginning, but I grew to love and care for him so much and to be like so invested in his life, and I just want him to be happy. I want all of them to be happy. And I think that the character development between the episodes and across seasons was done so well, and actually this is something I'm starting to think animated shows tend to do even better than live action ones, is like consistent character development and growth. So like if they learn a lesson about themselves or other people or life, you know, what they're doing, they will actually remember that and carry that into their next interactions in like the next episode or season or whatever. Like I'm not to say that they don't occasionally backslide or make mistakes, because they do, but it's not like that classic kind of sitcom trope where it's like, oh, character A learns that they need to ask their friends for help sometimes, and then like 3 episodes later the exact same scenario happens and it's like they have to learn it all over again. I didn't notice that with this show at all, and I've just been very impressed with character development for all of the animated shows that I have mentioned. And another thing I alluded to was how surprising the plot was, in a good way. And like there were definitely a couple of things that I could sort of predict or that I had ideas about, but overall, it was just so much fun to see. Like, they don't always go in the obvious direction, and I'm wondering if part of this is because I'm so new to animated shows that I'm not aware of like this whole other set of like common tropes almost, you know, like plot developments or character reveals that tend to happen or something. Like if maybe there's just this whole other subset that it seems like it's completely unexpected to me just because I'm not familiar with this, because I've mentioned before, like over and over, how good I am at predicting plot stuff or character stuff. Like, yeah, and it's not always fun, you know, it's not always fun to like know exactly what's gonna happen like 60 pages before it actually happens, so that has been really fun. I also feel like there's a really great balance of comedy and drama. Like, the humor in this show is so funny. Like, it's just, I don't know what it is about it that makes it work for me so well, but this is like my kind of TV humor. Like, it's really clever and it's also stupid sometimes, and I feel like there is a really good balance between the really dramatic moments. Like, there are some scenes that just like kick me in the gut. And I started rewatching it because there were a couple of things I didn't get from the first few episodes that, like, from knowledge I have from the later seasons, I wanted to go back and see if I understood it better, and that's been really fun. But there are a couple of scenes where it's like, I've seen it before, and it still just like is a gut-wrenching moment. I've already mentioned how much I absolutely adore all of the characters. Like, they're so interesting and fun, and just like, I just love them so much. I'm so invested in them. Obviously, I'm like very new to the show, so I have not been involved in fandom in any way, and I don't tend to be super into fandom culture right now anyway, but I've heard that there are some very toxic shipping wars in this show in particular, which is not great. And also, like, if you're worried about the shipping thing, there's like a little bit of romantic subtext between certain characters, but for the most part, it's like not really a big element of the show. I think there are definitely opinions I have about who I think would be good together, but it doesn't like overpower the show or anything. Also, I really like how different the aliens were. Like, we meet a lot of different alien species. I've heard from some people who are really into science fiction, they're kind of tired of like all the alien races basically looking like humans, but like blue skin or something. And I feel like even though there are some species that are like that, something I think Voltron does really well is like there's a wide variety of aliens, and even though some of the episodes it's like we don't get to see a lot of the planet, like they are very different, and you do get glimpses of like how their culture and how their people are different from the humans and from other species, which I think is really cool. So if you can't tell from all of my rambling and just gushing, I really, really, really loved the show. I highly recommend it. I would recommend it even if it doesn't, like I said with the genre thing, even if you're like, I'm not so into science fiction or into animated shows or whatever, I would still recommend you checking it out because it is so good. All 7 seasons are available to stream on Netflix, at least in the US, and there's going to be one more season, and I think it comes out in mid-December, so next month. Not too long to wait. I can't believe December is next month already. And now, finally, into the last portion of this video that is just gonna be me in my feelings. And it's gonna have a lot of spoilers and stuff, so I'm just gonna talk about some things that I need to get off my chest, and we can discuss in the comments if you guys have seen the show. So first off, Lotor. He was one of my favorite characters, and then we get that reveal that he is in fact an evil murderer, just like his dad and just like so many of the other Galra. I really don't like that. This is one of the only things that I'm like extremely dissatisfied with about the show. I think they just wasted such a complex character, and I kind of like, I sort of predicted it because it seemed it would be like such an obvious thing to do would be to have him double cross them and turn out to be evil. So I was hoping that they wouldn't, because as I said, there were a lot of other things where I thought it was going to go one way and they actually went in a more unique direction. But it just seems so typical that it goes against, I think, one of the messages of the show, which is like not all Galra are bad. Like, you can't just judge an entire group of people from your experiences with a few of them. And to have Lotor turn out to be evil all along, I feel like it kind of flies in the face of that a little bit, even though we do still have like good Galra and everything. But I just really didn't like that, and I will be completely honest and say that part of the reason is because I really liked him, and I liked him and Allura together. I liked their interactions. I loved Lotor as like this almost Zuko-esque, like, well, he was an enemy, but now he's like one of the good guys, and sometimes it's weird, but mostly we're on board for it. Like, I love that. I love those characters. I love that development. So I will admit that I was like personally invested in him being a good character. But I do think there are some more objective reasons that this wasn't as interesting too. One of them I mentioned just now, and that was like, it kind of goes against a message of the show, but I also just think that he's a much more interesting character if he's unexpected, like if he turns out to be a good guy, or, you know, like he ends up on the good guy's side. Like, it just seems so, like, predictable. And apparently, from what I've heard, Lotor was an actual villain in the original show, so maybe they didn't want to change that too much, but like they changed other things. I mean, they made Pidge a girl, so like they're clearly okay with changing some other elements of the story. I don't know, that really bothered me. Also, I really love the weird comedy episodes. Like, I think one of my favorite episodes in the whole show was the like Dungeons and Dragons parody. It was just so wonderful. I love it so much. I want to see more of those in season 8. I also really like that we got rid of Zarkon pretty early on. Like, I feel like the show did a really good job of like not making you sick of one villain, but also not making it just this never-ending, like, never-ending sequence of like, well, we kill one bad guy and then another one shows up and then we kill that one and then the next season it's somebody else. Like I feel like they did a really good job spreading out the conflict, and that was like really, I was just really impressed by that because that's something I tend to have issues with in TV. As far as like the shipping stuff goes, I am conflicted. I love all the characters, and I kind of wish, like I was talking to Amy about this actually, I kind of wish that we had more focus on like friendships and relationships, because I love, like, some of the friendships are like so important to me. Like Keith and Shiro being like bonded brothers is just, it means so much to me and it just fills my heart with so much love. And I love Hunk and Pidge being like best friends and like bro TP for life. Like I love them together. And I don't know, I kind of wish we hadn't brought any romance into the show at all. Or if we do have to bring it in, then of course I want my favorites to end up together. But like I'm like really not on board for Allura and Lance at this point. Not because I don't like them, because I love Allura and I love Lance separately, but I just think together it would be kind of weird because there's been like no references to them being together for like the middle 3 seasons. Like we knew that Lance had a crush on Allura because he has a crush on everyone, but after that it was like she wasn't interested. And then she was with Lotor for a while, and then it was like kind of a rebound. It was like she's possibly interested in Lance now, and I tend not to be a fan of when the female character almost gets worn down by the persistence of the male character. And like I said, I really like Lance, so I don't think he's manipulating her at all. I just think from the like the writing a TV show standpoint, I'm kind of like, did we have to? Like, did we have to have her end up with somebody she was completely uninterested in, unattracted to, not on board for romantically? Like, did we have to have that turn into like a potential romantic relationship? Like, I don't know. I have a feeling they're gonna end up together at the end of season 8, and I just like, I don't want it. I don't want it. Okay, everybody, so that was my review and kind of my feelings and my story of how I got into Voltron Legendary Defender and just animated shows in general. It's been great. I've been loving the experience. Please let me know if you guys have seen the show or what you thought of it. Please no spoilers in the comments, or if you are going to talk about spoilers, just do like a few enter breaks so that we don't spoil anyone who hasn't seen the show yet. But let me know what you guys think. We'll see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye! Or TV show, I guess. This outro really doesn't work if I'm not talking about books, does it?